So, Todd, when was the last time you saw a movie with Jamie Farr, Frank Sinatra,
Okay.
Tony Danza, Manus the Orangutan,
Okay.
Abe Vigoda,
Ah.
Joe Theismann, and Charles Nelson Riley?
There's only one answer. The movie is Cannonball Run.
Wrong! Cannonball Run 2! Oh. Ha. Welcome back to the Junkyard.
First thing I want to say about this movie, Cannonball Run 2. I have no doubt that I watched this a few times and I probably, as a teenager, loved it.
I was really excited to watch this movie in the summer of '84 because I loved the first movie.
Are you sure it's the summer of '84?
Yes. That blockbuster summer of '84, this piece of shit came out.
The same year as Ghostbusters with Bill Murray.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Gremlins.
Oh, yeah.
That was a stacked year.
I probably enjoyed the first one more. I mean, Cannonball Run was,
dumb but fun.
It was definitely fun. What year did that one come out?
81.
I mean, it was certainly fast cars. We were a lot younger.
Lamborghinis.
Yeah. Babes. Now this movie, Cannonball Run 2, had both of those. I think it was a little bit more, it was better put together, probably the first one. It was a cash grab.
It was a cash grab, for sure. Yeah. This is Hal Needham, the director, capitalizing on the success of Smokey and the Bandit from 1977, his first collaboration with Burt Reynolds. Then he did Hooper, Smokey and the Bandit 2, and Stroke of Ace.
There was a bond with Burt Reynolds and that director.
There was. Hal Needham was a former stuntman.
Okay. I did not know that.
Who got into directing.
Okay.
I think he worked on a few movies that Burt Reynolds had worked on. So they had bonded in their career together.
Now here's my first question about the movie in terms of cast. Burt Reynolds was one of the highest paid actors of that era.
He and Clint Eastwood were the highest paid actors in 1983-84.
So he made $5 million for one shitty movie called Cannonball Run 2.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Clint and Burt Reynolds also did a movie later the same year called City Heat.
Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds in City Heat. Need we say more?
Terrible movie which might, be re-examined later. Who knows?
Another shitty movie.
What could go wrong?
One of my main sort of interests in rewatching this piece of crap is that it starred way too many people.
The people who we talked about in the intro, it's just a small fraction of the people who show up in this movie.
So check this out, folks. And I'm not kidding. The movie stars this many people. You got Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, Jackie Chan.
Who was in the first movie, to be fair.
That's true. Shirley MacLaine, Marilu Henner, Jamie Farr.
Who was in MASH.
Don't forget After MASH.
They're not at war anymore.
Well, the fun had to end sometime.
Also, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Susan Anton, Catherine Bach,
Daisy Duke.
Jack Elam.
Who was in the first movie.
The great Tony Danza.
Well, has great and Tony Danza ever been muttered in the same sentence?
No, I added that.
Oh, okay.
Henry Silva. Now, am I right that Henry Silva was in Sharky's Machine with Burt Reynolds?
Yes. Yeah. He always plays villains and heavies.
So that's one of those connections where Burt was probably like,
let's get him in there.
Let's get him there. Don Knotts.
And his comedy partner.
You guessed it, Tim Conway. Telly Savalas. Richard Kiel. Chris, name another movie besides Cannonball Run 2 that Richard Kiel was in.
EGOT.
What the hell is that?
That terrible movie from the 60s where he's like a caveman.
I'm talking about his roles in Moonraker and Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, of course, Jaws.
That was another thing I was going to ask you, Hale.
What?
Do you think we would ever see Jaws from the Bond movies act with Jackie Chan?
Never.
And you said never, but
Hal Needham finally brought them together.
don't forget about Sid Caesar.
I actually do not remember Sid Caesar being in this movie, to be quite honest. And we just watched it.
You know what? I don't remember being in it either.
I think we're going with him.
Ricardo Montalban.
Con!
Abe Vigoda.
Fish?
You know, one time Abe Vigoda played with the band Fish on stage. Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah.
Okay. Jim Neighbors.
Golly!
Now, is it true that he had a different name in this movie that sounded kind of like his name in that show?
Yeah, his name in this movie is so cleverly changed to Homer Lyle. Private Homer Lyle.
Oh, that's terrible.
That sums up this movie, actually. The laziness of that.
Don't forget this person, Doug McClure.
A.K.A. Troy McClure.
I'm Troy McClure. You might remember me in certain films as Today We Kill, Tomorrow We Die.
And the president's neck is missing.
As I said to Dolores Montenegro in Calling All Quakers, have it your way, baby.
Mel Tillis.
He's weird.
Mel Tillis?
Should make fun of stutterers.
Well, the movie does.
Oh, that's okay then. Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh my God.
Alex Rocco.
You mean Mo Green?
Sonny, you don't come into Vegas and make fun of a guy like Mo Green like that. Dub Taylor. I have no idea who this is.
Are we still talking about the number of actors who appear in this movie?
Yes, because there's too fucking many actors in this movie.
Ah, God. We don't have all day.
All right, here we go.
If a monkey can drive, so can you.
George Lindsay.
Goober Pile.
So we actually have a connection.
An Andy Griffith reunion.
Are you ready for this? Foster Brooks.
The famous drunken actor. I don't remember him being in this movie either.
You don't remember Fisherman #1?
Nope.
Do you remember Joe Theismann?
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
course. The great Joe Theismann, folks. Sean Weatherly?
Look how, repulsed she is. You're so gross. How old are you? You smell like fucking vermouth.
Lewis Nye?
I don't remember this movie either. The last movie is a blur.
I may have fallen asleep at that point. Artie Johnson.
He plays the same, Nazi character from that stupid show Laugh In.
You remember him in other shows?
Yes.
I don't. Okay, next guy. Chris Lemon.
Jack Lemmon's son.
I didn't know that. Michael V. Gazzo.
They've got me waiting in line. Also in Godfather 2.
Godfather. Fred Dreyer.
Hunter.
Yep.
Works for me.
Jilly Rizzo.
Of course, Jilly Rizzo. The
Who the
great
fuck-
Jilly Rizzo.
Who the fuck is that?
Probably one of the babes. Don't forget, Jamie Farr's Chic is constantly surrounded by babes.
He'll see you guys.
John Z. Lee Kalima.
Are
Whatever.
you speaking English?
Lydia Lay.
Did she get laid?
Lydia Lee, sorry. Lydia Lee. Sean Stanek.
Of course, Sean Stanek.
The great Sean Stanek. Cheech.
I do not remember Cheech being in this movie.
Molly Picon.
She played Roger Moore's mother in the first movie, and she has a weird, brief cameo in this. The fans were clamoring for her return.
Yes, well, you get your clothes on. I'll buy you an ice cream.
Roger Moore.
Didn't appear in the sequel. Smart.
Yeah, but he was such a fixture of the first Cannonball. If you're talking about...
He's parroting himself.
I must warn you. I'm Roger Moore. Roger Moore.
My theory is Cubby Broccoli did not like Roger Moore being in that.
So you don't think it was Roger Moore's idea to not be in Cannonball Run 2?
I do not.
Interesting.
Gosh, wait till I tell my friends I was sitting next to George Hamilton.
George Hamill.
Don't just say that we're probably missing some actors and we're probably adding some actors. It doesn't really fucking matter.
It doesn't matter. This movie is a lazy cash grab.
Yeah. The basic thing about this movie to me is it's just supposed to be fun, adventure, road trip.
But there's no road and no trip.
That's what I was going to say. The first movie was very much about a true thing called the Cannonball Run.
Yeah, and it goes into like the actual like race. Of it.
Really does focus on a race, and the adventure is during the race.
And let's not delude ourselves. The first movie is dumb, but it's fun.
It's a popcorn movie.
Yeah.
The problem with this movie is that there is no
There's no race.
There is no race.
Jury's still out on that.
So is there a
Well,
plot?
there's no plot.
For 1,000.
I totally forgot Mr. Rourke was in this movie.
The falafel family.
Can you tell me what the plot was in basic terms?
Ricardo Montalban plays Jamie Farr's rich Arab father.
So Mr. Rourke.
Mr. Rourke, Khan, wants to like do a new race. And he tells his son to basically fix the race. So that's dumb right from the start.
It is.
No excuses, you son of my ugliest wife.
1,000 thanks.
Lots of slapping. Lots of slapping. So what about the beginning with the babes?
Babes in a Lamborghini.
Daisy Duke.
Daisy Duke, Catherine Bach, and Susan Anton. I thought it was the chick from Too Close for Comfort. But
Yeah, it's definitely not her.
They're outrunning the cops.
And it's a boring white, sort of dull white Lamborghini.
Yeah.
And for no reason at all, they have the scene during that chase intro where they decide that they have to quickly get rid of the color and make it what the real color is.
They've got people waiting for them in some random off-ramp to then be ready to like hose the paint off.
Thanks for the hose job.
You know she's really not.
I know what she meant. And then they take off.
And then they speed again and immediately attract the police. So what was the point of it?
So what was the point of changing it from white to red?
They're sticking it to the man. That's what they're doing.
But are they? They go through this big elaborate change of color of the car, only to do what? Nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We don't see the outcome of that after.
It is a complete. A complete nonsensical intro.
All it is babes and fast cards and flipping off the man. That's
why,
all you need to know.
But then why not just do that? What they tried to do though is like give you this twist, like, oh, they're being clever, but then nothing came.
There was nothing clever about it.
Next segment though, after Ricardo Montalban, after the Babe race, you're now introduced to this other aspect of the plot.
The producer of this movie is Albert S. Ruddy. Do you know what he also produced?
I have no idea.
The 2 Godfather films. I own The Godfather. Let's put that in the plot somehow. Anyway, this Godfather plot is so convoluted, and that ends up becoming the plot of this pointless sequel.
Is it much of a plot?
There's no plot, but that ends up being the narrative throughway for like all like the random shit that we see.
Was it the other day that I asked you, do you think we would ever see a time in our history when Charles Nelson Riley would act with the cast, some of the cast of The Godfather? You remember that?
No, I never thought that in my life.
So if you can you then explain how they take this sort of non-mafia plot?
A mafia Don who is an obvious parody of Don Corleone, played by Marlon Brando in The Godfather. Here it's Don Catalone, ha ha ha, played by Dom DeLuise.
Dom DeLuise is playing not one, but 2 characters in this film. 3
if you count his split personality Captain Chaos character.
Throw the little nuns in the car and let's be off.
Are you sure did he not win Best Actor that year?
No. It was that first time that people have been outraged about comedy being overlooked.
Right. Injustice.
Justice for Dom.
All right, so let's just move on.
Simulated attack.
Look at that fake camera. Look at that. That's not a real camera.
What is that?
They've got a lens, but it's not a real camera.
So, Chris, I imagine that the plot just takes off like a rocket car from there.
You would think so, but no.
Make us invisible.
You meet various other people like Tony Danza
Tony
and
Danza.
Mel Tillis. For some reason, they think they're going to win this race by having an orangutan drive their limo.
Wait, there's an orangutan in this movie?
Yep. It's all facade. It looks like the orangutan is driving, but Tony Danza is really driving.
Oh!
And that's supposed to not attract police somehow?
Let's get the hell out of here.
In a bafflingly stupid film, that might be the stupidest part of this movie.
You know, it does sound stupid, but it also sounds brilliantly funny.
You would think so, but it's not funny at any point in this film.
It fails to be brilliantly funny.
Fails and fails again.
The movie clearly, though, probably takes off from there in terms of plot.
No, then it sputters around for a little bit.
Oh.
Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. are then tied into the mafia
I forgot
subplot.
that Dean Martin's in this.
One of them owes money to Charles Nelson Riley. The movie becomes even more convoluted. We get bogged down in this mafia plot. We got a fake gun. That's like our fake gun.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at how it's not even doesn't have any weight to it.
Like, what is going on?
Charles Nelson Riley, who's the son of Don Cannelloni, Don, Charles Nelson Riley owes money to that mafia guy played by Telly Savalas. It's not really clear.
So Don
Yes, his name's Don.
is Telly Savalas?
No, Don is Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh, Jesus.
Dun. I mean, Dum.
All right, then what?
They have to go after the Sheik played by Jamie Farr.
Jamie Farr from Aftermath?
Yes, and nothing else. But anyway, the most of the plot ends up circling around the mafia, the competing mafia people trying to abduct Jamie Farr because he's got the money. Even though the whole point of the race is to win the money.
That's
so
right.
why don't the mafia people, instead of trying to abduct him, just participate in the race?
Right. Meanwhile, we're not seeing any real racing going on at all.
No, not at all.
So basically, it's a mafia movie, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
All
But
right.
there is a race does start eventually.
So what, middle of the movie?
Yeah, 40 minutes into it, something like that.
What do we see during the race that takes us through the storyline?
Nothing. Then there's just random shit that happens to distract you from the race.
Like what?
Burt Reynolds is masquerading as a general for some reason. He's driving a military car that it's not going to get pulled over by police. He and Dom DeLuise pick up two who they think are nuns,
Shirley MacLaine and Mary Lou Henner.
but they're really showgirls.
By the way, I gotta say, they're both attractive ladies, and I have to say that Shirley MacLaine,
Looks great.
she looks great. I don't even know how old she is.
I think she was 50.
And she is pretty much the love interest for Burt Reynolds.
And Mary Lou Henner becomes the love interest for Dom.
Well, if you ask me, I'm just going to say this. If you asked me at the beginning, who do I think Dom DeLuise would end up with sexually, romantically, I would have said Mary Lou Henner.
I've been waiting for this.
There's a semblance of a race, and you see various antics. The babes pick up Joe Theismann.
So take me through the end of this movie. Yeah, we've been talking about this too long. How does the last third of this movie go?
The mafia people end up abducting Jamie Farr, and they take him to, it's called the Pinto Ranch. It's supposed to be a parody of the Mustang Ranch,
All right.
which is owned by Don. So the race stops for some reason.
And I don't even know if anyone would care that the race stops.
Well, they shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's not clear how they find out that the Sheik has been abducted.
Who
So I
cares?
guess you're supposed to think that they think that the money is not going to be available if the Sheik is not.
Yeah, do we?
It's not clear.
It's not clear at all.
Who else knew the million was in the Sheik's trunk?
They have to figure out a plan to save the Sheik.
Oh my God, that's right.
And that's how Frank Sinatra comes into it.
Mr. Sinatra? You may call me Frank. I call him Frank. Not yet.
I'll let you know when you can.
It doesn't make sense why they even have to go to Frank Sinatra.
There's
For something they have to go to Frank Sinatra to figure out what to do with the Sheik.
Right. Then they're dressed up
And
as
then
women.
they could have just done that anyway.
That scene with the great Frank Sinatra.
This is his last film appearance.
This is his last film appearance. It's also maybe the worst last appearance in film ever.
He's not with anybody else.
So here's what Roger Ebert said. The scene starts with Sinatra, and we're looking over his head at Burt and some other people. At least it looks like Sinatra's head, except there's something a little funny about the ears. That's the final tip-off. Sinatra did his entire scene by sitting down at a desk and reading his lines into a camera, and then, on another day, Reynolds and others looked into the camera and pretended to be looking at him.
What this reminded me of is those scenes in Seinfeld with George Steinbrenner. It looks exactly like that.
Right. Which was always terrible.
Yeah.
In
But that was the
Seinfeld.
point in Seinfeld. They were making fun of that.
I got a trio that I use in my act, and this bum's been trying to steal it for months. Dorothy, get me Don Don.
But a good director and good actors would make that seem fluid.
But nobody cared. This was a lazy cash grab.
After the Frank Sinatra scene, and let's face it, that scene is pretty much shit and nonsensical and disjointed. Suddenly, they just cut to Sammy Davis Jr., Dom DeLuise, Burt Reynolds decide to dress up as women, belly dancers, and put on a show which is setting up what?
To somehow rescue Jamie Farr, the Sheik. I don't know what their plan is.
You have the stupid dressed up belly dancers by some of our principal
Who clearly don't look like women.
No, not at all.
Because you can clearly see Dom's beard and Bert's mustaches. So do you think that is supposed to be funny?
Yes, I think it is supposed to be funny.
But it's not funny.
It's terrible. Eventually, after the little dance show that they put on, that leads to a
big fight.
A big fight.
To actually mirror, I guess, the one in the first film.
Well, thank you. I was an athlete. Oh, yeah? Yeah, I was all right.
How did any of the other Cannonball racers know to go there?
Right.
None of that is any clear.
All this chaos is going on now.
And somehow Telly Savalas' rival Don knows to go there. That's not clear either how he knows to go there, but he winds up there.
So what happens after the big brawl of all the people?
Well, we find out that actually before that, Jamie Farr had actually bought the ranch. So there was no danger. So none of that ever mattered.
So basically the whole movie doesn't matter?
And then they go back to the race. Yeah.
Wait, there was a race?
Yes. And then the rest of the race is just basically a poorly animated map sequence.
So there's basically a half-assed ending to the dumb race.
Yeah, and Frank Sinatra.
Did he show up for that cameo there? The same one day that he did the other scene, he also...
Or maybe another day, people were like, "Oh, Frank, can you just go out on the freeway and
we'll just film you driving in a car?
And then when I say action, look over at the camera."
The race ends, and then what?
That's the end of the movie. It just ends. Yeah,
So
they actually can't wait to get the fuck out.
What is the actual ending of the movie?
I actually don't remember.
Can we just show the audience what the end of the movie is?
Here's the ending.
Excuse me, sir. I'd like you to meet my pup.
Beresford just having so many characters with so little plot makes it instantly just a bad film.
Yes.
Because
It's nonsense.
It's nonsense. What is funny about the outtakes when you talk about this era? Because there is something...
This is the era where, with the Hal Needham films. Hooper. Audiences had been, geared to, anticipate these outtakes.
I agree.
I'm ready. I swear to God, I'm ready.
So I think they were like, this movie sucks, but the outtakes will be funny.
The outtakes are going to be funny.
I actually think in Cannonball Run 2, they were staging outtakes.
Sir, the Cannonball is a race from Connecticut to your ass.
But at least 4 movies where it became popular that Burt Reynolds just slapped the shit out of Dom DeLuise.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So some people were watching for that reason.
Yes.
Cannonball Run was successful enough and entertaining enough that people wanted to see Cannonball Run 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked the first Cannonball movie. It's dumb. I didn't know it at the time, but
it was fun.
It was fun.
We're here to help you win!
Did you miss me? What generally do we think about this film?
It's pretty bad. And I think this is like one of my first memories of what a bad film actually is.
I feel like this movie was just plotless, thrown together, stitched together in a way that just you could tell.
There was fun in the first film.
Yeah.
And that's why people actually, like, that I've read that were actually brought on board, like Shirley MacLaine was like, oh, I heard you guys had fun with that.
Let's drink and party and have fun and make another movie.
But that doesn't translate in this second film.
Definitely does not.
Part of it is this convoluted mafia plot.
So, I mean, in this film, the one thing you could say is that there's a few like historical notes that are worthy of talking about, at least.
Are there?
Yeah. This movie saw the end of some careers in terms of just retirement. First of all, Frank Sinatra.
It's officially the last appearance of the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
As a group.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's my last point about Cannonball Run. All right, Cannonball Run movies. Cannonball Run, the first film, cost about 18 mil, but the box office worldwide was $160 million.
In 1981 dollars?
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's amazing. Cannonball Run 2, also around 18 mil. Are you ready for this? Worldwide box office, 56.3 mil.
A huge drop off.
A huge drop off. Are you wondering why there was not a Cannonball Run 3?
But there was some sort of like weird spin-off called Speed Zone.
What? I never saw it.
I didn't either. It was in 1989. You know who's in it?
Jamie Farr from Aftermash?
Yep. And John Candy.
Of course.
That could be like another viewing.
It could be.
So would you recommend people watch Cannonball Run 2?
I would not.
I would not either.
Yeah.
It's a boring slog to get through.
Here's the other thing I would say. Watch the first movie, and then I would say, yes, watch this second one.
Why?
Just to see the differences. Is it a bad movie? Yes. Is it worth the bad movie watch where you might enjoy the comedy of why it's bad?
No, maybe. Yeah. As a comparison, I don't know.
Yeah. But does it belong in the junkyard?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
Chris, how do you want to sign off?
I mean...
What do you mean I mean? I mean, do you want... Don't do it.
Please don't hit me.
I didn't say I was going to do it.
Please
don't make me do it. Don't make me do it.
Don't slap me.
I don't want to do it again. That might be funny.